Scott, or should I?
I would be glad to, since I've made you do it the last few times. So
Yay! Thank you.
thank you everybody for joining us. It's that time of year again. We're all starting to focus on advising, and the syllabus, I think, is one of those underutilized resources that we have. So Dean Byington, the man with the plan for advising, has agreed to review the syllabus with us and kind of give us ways that it could make our job a little bit easier and how we could use that. So Dean Byington, if you would please.
Yes, again, thank you all for being here and part of this conversation. I just have just a handful of slides to show you to kind of get you thinking about the what, the why, and the how of the advising syllabus. As Mary Ann said, it probably is an underutilized tool. We've been sort of putting a toe in the water and experimenting with it, and I would certainly encourage you from this conversation to share any ideas and thoughts about how you would see us using it even more in the future. When you took classes in college, you walked in the room and you were handed a syllabus. And that syllabus had things on it like who was doing it, what you were supposed to learn, what resources you were supposed to use, maybe some expectations for that experience. An advising syllabus really is that same thing. It's trying to put down on paper some important information for students that they will need about their advising experience. It's really helpful, I think, to start to make advising stand out, to make it look a little bit different than any other service that they may utilize on campus, not to dismiss anything else, any other service on campus, but advising has a sort of a special place in the student experience. And so the advising syllabus is a way of starting to establish that. If you're handed the syllabus, something's different about this meeting than I would have in other places around campus. I don't get a syllabus in many other places except in class. And that's one of the reasons that the advising syllabus has sort of taken off in the last 15 years is we view advising as teaching. And when we teach, what do we hand out? A syllabus. And so this is a way, again, of kind of connecting the advising to an educational experience. It does provide this resource for advisors because I'm often surprised at what I may forget to share in an advising appointment until I glance at the syllabus, and we'll talk about how to use it here in a second. And it really is a tool for all of us. If we all have a syllabus and we all sort of agree on the basic tenets, as in this is what we believe advising is, then that's where that advising syllabus really sort of helps connect all of us and all of our advising so that we're all doing something in a similar way across our advising experience. So why use it? When I presented on this for NACADA this summer, this was really an intriguing question. Many places had said, we've heard of a syllabus, but why should we use one? I come back to this idea of framing advising as a different kind of experience. So you have students who will come in the first day, first week, first month, even the first year, not knowing what advising is or what it's supposed to do. And so you want to take advising from this place of something I just have to do to get classes to a different place. An advising syllabus spells out in more detail what that looks like. Also think about your first generation students who have very limited exposure to college in general. How are they supposed to know what advising is unless we maybe take a few minutes and really clearly articulate what it is via a syllabus? I also like the fact that advising syllabus helps explain advising to not just advisees, not just advisors, but other staff, administrators, the board of trustees, outside people who look at our syllabus and go, oh, that's what CCCC believes about advising. So it provides kind of a snapshot of advising to lots of populations. As I said, it reinforces that education connection between advising and teaching, helps formalize expectations for everybody. As we'll see in a moment, that's one of the really probably principal uses of an advising syllabus. Here's what I do as your advisor. Here's what you're supposed to do as my advisee. And what I also like to, especially in ways you can use a syllabus, it helps demonstrate that this is not just a one and done. We refer to the syllabus with my advisees on a pretty regular basis. So it really makes it look like something more almost like a textbook. We're going to keep using this as opposed to a one-time handout that you're going to throw away when you leave my office. So what should be there? This is an interesting question that gets rattled around a lot when people talk about an advising syllabus. What you see there in the center are probably what I typically see on most advising syllabi. Mission, learning outcomes, obviously who the advisor is, expectations for advisors and students, some important policies and procedures like here's when registration happens or here's how graduation works, and some campus tools and resources. What could be on an advising syllabus, and it's on our syllabi, we define advising. We have an FAQ for advising terms. We don't talk a lot about methods for advising. In some places, they may want to say, we use appreciative advising or we use intrusive advising. You can also have on there an advising calendar of when things happen, special processes. And if you want to, you could use it as a contract. You can say, okay, advisee, you understand what we're doing. I understand what we're doing. Sign this, we'll do a pinky swear and we're all good. But that could actually work for certain populations to kind of reinforce again the importance of advising as something more than just oh, we had an advising meeting and I'll do this again in a few months, to something where you say, the expectation is I'm going to hear from you monthly, or I'm going to hear from you every few weeks, or when I send this to you, you'll send something back. So you can make it more contractual, and some schools have done that. The last thing I want to do is just kind of think a little bit about how to use an advising syllabus. What are some ways you can do it? You've spent some time with the syllabus, you know what's on it. So what are some of those considerations for how to use one well? One is, when should they get it? What I would always encourage people to do is the first time, excuse me, that you reach out to a student as an advisor, sorry, is that you attach a syllabus and say, hey, Amy, glad that you're my advisee. I love advising, glad to connect with you. Hey, I've attached an advising syllabus that we're going to chat about at our first meeting. Just have a look at this when you get a chance. So that is one way of putting the advising conversation out there early, that, hey, man, he sent me a syllabus. I guess I need to look at this. This is because I know a syllabus is important for college, so I should look at this thing. There's a lot of question as when it could and should be introduced to students. Some people believe you should hand out an orientation, and I have that as the, excuse me, as the next bullet, that some people believe it's a really good time to introduce the concept of advising at orientation. You also can, again, send it when you send the first communication to students. You can post it on a website. You can send it via Aviso. All those things are sort of a consideration of when, but that goes back to how. How will you use it? How will you refer to it? I've gotten into a habit now, sorry, of using this as a tool during an advising appointment. So Jennifer just came in. Jennifer's my advisee. She walks in. Hey, Jennifer, how are you doing? Tell me about how you are feeling, how things are going. Talk about classes. And then, hey, what's coming up next is, we're going to talk a little bit more about goal setting. Here in the syllabus is where I mentioned that before. So if you still have your syllabus, want me to send you another one, I can do that. But I'll just whip one out of the drawer, and then we talk a little bit about what's on there. Once again, reinforcing that this idea, advising is not a one and done. It's an ongoing process, and my advising syllabus is sort of a textbook. I can say after the advising appointment, hey, can you please go look at the syllabus and check to see if you've done this, or this is how graduation works if you have questions, or here's a resource that I want to refer you to. It's on the advising syllabus. Again, you keep bringing it back up. Some people still use it sort of contractually. I've not done this very much. I've done it a little bit with some students in the past. I find that I forget about it, they forget about it. The signing of it doesn't really elevate it the way I'd like it to, but referring to it over and over again sort of does. Using it, if you're teaching ACA, you can say, hey, this is what advising is. This is what advising is supposed to work, how it's supposed to work for you. So you can use it as part of a curriculum like in an ACA course. If a student changes programs, if they change from associate in arts to associate in science, they change from associate in science to nursing, whatever they change and they get a new advisor, I always think it's a good idea to say, here's my advising syllabus, here's how I work, so you understand best how to work with me and you know what I'm expecting of you. And again, there's probably other uses that you could sort of take on with an advising syllabus. I'm giving you the ones here that are most commonly used, but you may have a different idea, and in a minute I'll ask for those ways you can actually use an advising syllabus in a different fashion. Before we do questions and comments, I will show you, maybe I won't, maybe I will. Yes, I'll just show you again what mine looks like now to give you a sense of what I sent out at the beginning of the year is really what I still use for mine. But again, it's going to be the basic information on here, defining advising, defining responsibilities. This is what you do. You as advisee, this is what I'd like you to do. Be honest, share your limitations, share your challenges with me, communicate if you're having difficulties. These are things that I can come back to in an advising appointment, and I'll say, how's it going? Oh, everything is good. Well, no, I see you've got a 12 in Business 110, so things aren't going that great. So tell me more about that experience. So again, you can kind of keep reinforcing things that you've already discussed as expectations as you are using the advising syllabus. Again, I lay out what I want to do. These are my responsibilities. This is what I see as my job. So they understand better what advising is, especially if they really haven't ever been exposed to advising before. The learning outcomes are on here. Those have been discussed by committees to say this is what we believe advising is. I give them some important things to know. When should you see me? And again, do I have to say that? Do I have to say when should you see me? Sure, because again, they may not know when should I see that guy. I mean, only when I have a question about a class, or I don't know. So laying those out, I will sometimes jokingly say, you can see me whenever you want, but when you see me every day and you're waiting by my car in the afternoon, that's called stalking, and I discourage that. But you can, again, put this into sort of a humorous context, but also, again, this is a teaching tool, as hopefully you see. I encourage things like, getting involved. That is something that you may go, I have to say that in an advising syllabus. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that we find in research helps students persist is their involvement in college. So it's a good place for me to remind them of that. I remind them of campus resources. I remind them of, CCCC Cares. I give them a brief thing on paying for college. I give them a brief thing on an advising calendar. Again, what I'm doing with these things is really trying to help them understand college. And then we have at the end a glossary of advising terms, just things that we go around, we toss around all the time, embark, ACA, CAA, but to say to them, this is kind of your little textbook of terminology. Do they use this every day? Of course not. But do they use it some? I know they do, because they'll come back and they'll tell me about something that they learned from this. So that is just a quick version of the advising syllabus. Hopefully, if you're thinking about a takeaway from this experience, looking at the advising syllabus session today, this is a tool. This is another way that we can talk about advising and work with students as advisors and give them some additional context for what the advising experience looks like. So with that, I am going to end and really invite you to share either your experience with an advising syllabus, something that you would like to see us do with an advising syllabus, or questions or concerns. Floor is yours.
Scott, have you actually implemented this in any of your virtual meetings with students yet? How did you do that?
Just a little bit. I mean, I will send them the advising syllabus in advance, and when we're on a virtual session, I'll say, "Did you get it?" "Yes." "Did you look at it?" Sure." "Okay. Well, what you'll see on there is," and I'll make reference to it. I don't expect to have it printed out at their side waiting to use it, but I think it's a reminder again that it's there. And I don't have any misconception that they've got it posted over their bed or they've got it tattooed on their arm. But I think, again, it provides that ability of saying, I know there's information if I need. If I can't reach my advisor, maybe the information's on the syllabus. And I've actually queried some of my students about, seriously, okay, just us talking. Are you using it? And I will get yeah, actually, I stuck it in a notebook and I saw it and I had a question about, you said something about financial aid and I saw that FAFSA thing. So yes, you will still get them to use it some, but as you can tell, there is sort of the big A advising, which is advising for the entire program. And for me, little a advising, which is that advising with the individual student. The advising syllabus works on kind of the big A level. This is what we believe and do as an advising program, but also on the little a level, this is how I'm going to work with you. And so we're clear on our expectations. So, in the virtual world, I think it's still doable. I've just not done it as much with the virtual advising.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Other questions, other comments?
Well, I really like, hold on. Sorry, I can totally hear myself in the background, so I had to change that. So I really like this advising syllabus. I don't think I've seen this version of it before. Was it revised anytime in the last little while?
Yeah, this was the version we sent out this fall.
Okay. Yeah, it's really great and it's very concise. I mean, in the ways that it needs to be, and I just think it's a really helpful, good document for our students.
Well, you'll find, for people teaching curriculum courses, they can have a syllabus that's 2 pages long, or they can have one that's 20 pages long. And I know people who've done both. I want the syllabus to sort of serve, especially from an advising capacity, as more of a resource than it is a burdensome document. If I put in 20 pages of things for them, and I could, sadly, then it'll be something I can guarantee they won't look at. But I've actually asked advisees, I said, how long would you actually look at this? And they'll say, maybe 10 minutes. I'll kind of thumb through it and I'll kind of focus on the highlights. And okay, so then a 5 or 6 page syllabus is probably all you can reasonably do. But I know that, some schools will do an institutional syllabus, thou shall not change it ever. This is how it looks. I send out something that people can use as a starting point. I really would hope they're not changing outcomes and are not changing major things, but I hope you do personalize it and say, this is how I communicate with you. Put your Google number in there if you've got one, or I really encourage you to stop by, or I encourage you to sign up for an appointment first. So you personalize that piece of it for sure.
Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna call out Nick because I know Nick's been talking about advising syllabi with, because he's asked about mine. So Nick, anything you want to share about advising syllabi and your experience? Or maybe Nick is napping. Anything else that I can share about this? If you are using it and you've had an experience with, good or bad with an advising syllabus, we'd love to hear that too. Okay, hearing none. I do really, okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good, Misty. I think the idea of using a syllabus is a little strange at first for advising purposes, but when you use it, as you said, as a way of sort of setting expectations, that's really where it's very valuable. That because again, I'm always struggling with the idea that we say, go see your advisor. Okay, great. Why? Why do I want to see this person? And if you sort of lay out why this can kind of what your role is, you can do that in an email, of course. But what I will do usually for the first year that I'm working with a new student is about every email that of substance, not something small, but if it's an email of substance like, hey, good time for us to talk about an academic plan for you. By the way, I went ahead, I don't know if you got this or not, wink, wink, but here's another copy of the advising syllabus just in case you needed it. I would find excuses to send it to them because, again, as you said, Misty, it sort of sets the expectation of what we all do, and it helps them understand the role of advising. Yeah, that's also good too, to clarify what we can't do. That's true. I had a call yesterday. Can you drop me from a class? Nope. But I think, again, we need to clarify what advising is on a regular basis. And I don't want to pretend that the advising syllabus fixes all of those conversations, but it provides a basis for those conversations. And that's where I think there's value in it. So for my students who are about to graduate, am I pulling out the advising syllabus? Probably not. But for first year students, and especially first generation students, it's really, really valuable to be stating what advising is and isn't whenever you can. Okay. And Audra, I'm glad you like using it. Yeah, I think it's a great tool for students. It really helps them get a better idea of what this whole advising thing is about. And yeah, as you've heard me preach in the past too, I really want to break away advising from registration as the directly connected, so it kind of gives context to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think students do have a misconception about what it is that we do, and the syllabus definitely helps. And it also kind of guides me through, with new students especially, so that I don't forget stuff. I mean, I try not to, and I'm really pretty good about covering things, but I think it's a really good tool for the advisors as well.
I'm glad you said that, because when I talked to Nakata this summer, I said it's really a good way to educate your advising program, and that includes your advisors. So they go, oh yeah, by the way, have we talked about? And so it's a good prompt for us too. I totally agree. Okay, any final questions? Well, hearing none, thank you all for being part of this event today. Really encourage you, if you want to talk more about an advising syllabus, if you just want to kind of throw around some ideas, let me know. This is an area that I think has a lot of value and a lot of use and a lot of potential at CCCC, and happy to have those conversations with you. So thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dean Byington. I appreciate everybody being here for our session today. If there's any sessions that you'd like to see us have or topics you'd like us to look into, please feel free to email me, Marianne Ockenpaw, or Dean Byington, and we'll look into getting those set up for you. I hope you guys have a great week.